Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:25 a.m. Friday, October the 24th. I hope you're having a great start to your Friday morning. I've got my big blue mug of coffee, and I tip it to you today. And I'm just chuckling because I just can't believe what goes on in this country anymore. I can't. And Doug Ford, about a week ago, poured more gasoline on the dumpster fire, and it's having repercussions today. And I almost did a story on this before I went to bed last night. I almost got out of bed and started recording last night, but I thought, I might have a different perspective on this in the morning, and I do. And I'm going to ask a question of Doug Ford in just a moment. I don't think anybody else is asking today. Okay? I actually might have two questions for Doug Ford. Doug Ford has had a bimbo eruption. That's what it's known in Canadian politics. It's sort of like pouring out a bottle of Crown Royal. It accomplishes nothing and makes you look like a damn fool. So here's the story. Trump says trade talks with Canada terminated, claiming Ontario used fake anti-tariff Reagan ad. Was what the Ontario government and the ad that they ran, was it fake? No, it was the words of Ronald Reagan, but they didn't give you the whole story because they selectively edited what Ronald Reagan said. In fact, they only left about 30 or 40 seconds off the end of it that proved that Ronald Reagan, yes, when it benefited the United States, used tariffs. So if you're not aware of what's going on here, I'm going to ask the question of Doug Ford right after I play this 1-minute video. So here's Doug Ford. This was back on the 16th of October. It's official. Ontario's new advertising campaign in the U.S. has launched. Using every tool we have, we'll never stop making the case against American tariffs on Canada. The way to prosperity is by working together. Watch our new ad.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So my question to Premier Doug Ford, Doug, what was the purpose of this ad? What did you hope to accomplish with this ad? Were you trying to stir up hate amongst the people in the left in the United States who hate Donald Trump? Finding a leftist in the United States who hates Donald Trump is like shooting fish in a barrel, Doug. What was the purpose of this? What did you hope to accomplish by this? Because this kind of attitude and behavior has not accomplished anything with Donald Trump. Maybe you should be running an ad against Mark Carney, who hasn't done what he said he would do. He stood up the other night in his pre-budget announcement or his pre-budget speech, and this is the kind of attitude he had to start off that speech the other night. Things will never be the same. No, they won't as long as we have this issue going on with the United States of America. Maybe it's time to use the carrot and not the stick. What was the purpose of this ad other than to poke the bear? And I think that's what this was meant to do. Is this a campaign ad for you to run in the upcoming conservative leadership race because you think that's coming? Because you think Pierre Poilievre will be gone at the end of January? Is that what this is about? Here's Donald Trump on Truth Social. Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75,000. I think it might have been $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the United States of America. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. And here's a statement from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. Now, I don't know what they can do legally. This is from 1987. It might be in the public domain. I don't know. They have misrepresented what Ronald Reagan said because province of Ontario did not play the end of this. Ronald Reagan was not for tariffs, but he was at times, and here's how he ended. In fact, let me just show you. A statement on tariffs on April the 17th, 1987, tariff increases on Japanese semiconductor products. And 1 week later, this is the 25th of April, this is one of his Saturday addresses, the great communicator here, talking about this issue and tariffs on Japan.
And on trade issues, by and large, we've done well. In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products. But we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth.
Let me get this straight. I am not here to defend Donald Trump. I'm merely asking the question of the Premier of Ontario. Doug, what has this accomplished? As you can see, it's accomplished nothing. In fact, it's made things worse. This has been detrimental to the process. Maybe you need to start thinking differently. Here's the article from the Reagan Library regarding these tariffs. In my March 27th announcement, I said we'd impose tariffs on $300 million in Japanese exports to the United States to offset losses suffered by American semiconductor producers as a result of the agreement not being fully implemented. Ronald Reagan imposed tariffs back there because he thought he wasn't getting a fair deal from other countries. And whether you like it or not, and whether you think it's true or not, that's what Donald Trump thinks. And here's another question I have for you, Doug. Is it Donald Trump's responsibility to look out for the Ontario economy? Is it his responsibility to look out for the Canadian economy? No, Donald Trump thinks, whether you like it or not, that he's doing what's best for his country. And I think the people who continue to go after Donald Trump should stop looking outwardly and start looking inwardly, because the threat is in the house. Mark Carney has failed on this. Mark Carney has failed on this. This was the singular reason he got elected. Period. How are these tariffs working out for Donald Trump in the United States? Again, he's just doing what he thinks is best for his country. He wants jobs in his country. And he doesn't care where he's going to get them. Trump signs order hitting truck imports with 25% tariffs. About a week or so later, we get this story. Quebec Union urging action after 300 employees laid off amid tariff war. Unifor Quebec Union wants action after hundreds of workers laid off at a commercial truck manufacturer, which the union says is related to the ongoing tariff war between Canada and the United States of America. Donald Trump is just doing what he thinks is best for his country. We need people who live in this country and people who rule over us in this country to start thinking about what's best for Canada. And we don't have that right now. We get temper tantrums from people like Doug Ford. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one.